Ay, me perdí.
Aquí se cayeron unas.
No, aquí está. So I think that we do rewrite ourselves through film. Certainly the films that Natalia and I make are more sort of art films than necessarily commercial fare. And art is always a way to self-reflect or self-reference or explore oneself. And a way to, instead of rewriting oneself, it's more about like to strengthen the why of yourself and what you're looking for. And certainly I've started writing with less fear. I've allowed myself to let go more and put myself more into my films. And my new film is so self-reflexive that I basically, the only thing that's missing is that they put my own name to the character. So definitely art is a kind of therapy, and I find myself with wanting more to put myself into my work and explore myself in that way. And I guess it's also a kind of self-destruction emotionally. You sort of start destroying yourself little by little because it comes so much from the heart, and it's sort of this biological need to tell a story and to tell your story and to talk about why and who you are, and question this idea of being a woman who is somehow representative of something, rather than really telling the why of yourself and who you are and what you are. And as a creator, I think you have to be really, really conscious of the path that you're taking. And I want to insist that it's not rewriting oneself, it's like strengthening yourself, carrying on, continuing to be yourself and continue to create. And I guess at some point you might turn into a monster, create this kind of monstrous idea, of self-reflective idea. But that's what I think, rather than rewriting, it's kind of strengthening and reinforcing.
I agree too. Yeah, I don't really see writing as being a process that helps me understand myself better. I think that maybe the whole filmmaking process, I could say that of. But I actually find that until I have a already good understanding of what I'm going to be writing about, I can't write it. So I wouldn't discover myself through the writing at all. But yeah, I find it interesting because while I agree with everything that you said about putting so much of yourself into your work, which is definitely something I do. I always find it really interesting, like how I'm always looking for this balance between telling my own story and telling other people's story, because especially, where I come from, my story is the most represented story and the story that least needs to be told. So I look at ways to bring other people's experiences and other people's stories in a collaborative way, and then also share things that I've experienced that aren't necessarily about me, but are about other people. But which, if I was to tell someone this thing happened and I had this experience, people wouldn't believe me. Like, I almost have to fictionalize stuff in order to make it something that people will understand or be able to accept. Not that they do, because I still do get the experience also with Flatland of, funnily enough, the things that people found the hardest to believe or to buy into were the things that were most personal to me. So I had people arguing with me about things that happen in the film not being realistic, and those were the things that were most based on my own life. So I don't really know. But yeah, I think for me it's very much both. It's I want to share myself, but also share the world with other people and help other people share themselves and their conversations within the context of the film.
So, sí, estoy de acuerdo. Para mí escribir no es necesariamente un proceso de autoentenderme o de entenderme mejor. Sí, o sea, todo el proceso de hacer cine para mí es eso. Yo personalmente tengo que entender muy bien mi tema, la historia que estoy contando, para poder contarlo. Entonces no creo que necesariamente me descubro mí mismo tras el proceso de escribir. Sí, estoy de acuerdo, pongo muchísimo de mí mismo en mi trabajo, pero busco una balance entre mi historia personal y las historias de los demás, porque la verdad es que mi historia es la historia más representada en el cine, ¿no? O sea, busco las historias de los demás, de gente menos representada en el cine para contar estas historias. Y las cosas más personales míos las tengo que hacer ficción, porque la verdad, si no las hago ficción, no siento que la gente las va a comprar o las va a querer. La verdad es que en Flatland las partes que para la gente eran más difíciles a entender o creer, eran las partes que realmente me pasaron, las cosas que realmente me pasaron. Me decían, esa cosa no lo creo, o sea, no es muy realista. Y esas eran las cosas que realmente me habían pasado, ¿no?
¿Pregunta?
Sí, yo creo que sí.
Ahora le damos la palabra al público. No sé si alguien tiene alguna pregunta para alguna de las realizadoras sobre el tema.
¿No quieres brincar? Sí. Grítanos y otra vez.
Para Natalia, en esta condescendencia, ¿no?, que se ha encontrado con los productores de las series por esta cuota, ¿no?, que tienen que pagar, ¿no? ¿Cuál sería el siguiente paso? Parece que cuando zanjan una cosa, ¿no?, se atraviesa otro bache, que zanjar, ¿no? Que volver a, como empezar, es como volver a la piedra de Sísifo, ¿no? De volver a cargarla, ¿no? O sea, mi pregunta específica es cómo, cómo se pueden zanjar todos esos elementos que se van encontrando al ser,
Creo que es mejor sin el micrófono, ¿eh? ¿Lo pueden apagar? Yeah. So the question is about the kind of condescension that you encounter as a woman creator, filmmaker or writer, and about filling quotas, as has been discussed. Like, what's the next step? It was particularly for Natalia, but I think it can be a question for everyone. What's the next step? How do you start dealing with all of these obstacles in your path?
Pensaría que, de nuevo, como diferenciando entre la conversación pública y la conversación privada, en lo público y más como en el mainstream y las plataformas y los contenidos que ahí se están explorando. Por un lado, creo que estamos como viviendo un momento como transicional, o eso quiero pensar, en donde muchas de las cuestiones alrededor de la mirada femenina o del género en muchísimos de los ámbitos, pero bueno, si lo acotamos a la industria audiovisual, siento que estamos como en un momento, como que la imagen que tengo es como si fuera una cuerda floja. Entonces, pues uno, para encontrar el balance en la cuerda floja y no caerte, pues generalmente cuando empiezas a practicarla como que das bandazos, ¿no? Y después encuentras el centro y a partir de eso puedes caminar sin caerte. Siento que hoy históricamente estamos en el momento de los bandazos y que está bien, que es un proceso y que no vamos a cambiar siglos de patriarcado de un día para otro, y que a mí lo que más me emociona es dar clases y encontrarme con mis alumnas y encontrar unas visiones y maneras de verse y de contarse que yo de pronto ya me siento como tía. O sea, es como, wow, eso es lo que más me emociona, Y bueno, si a mí me toca ahorita que me inviten a trabajar en series de televisión donde prioritariamente son personajes masculinos los que se narran, en cruz prioritariamente masculinos, bueno, pues entonces es mi trabajo hacer que vengan más mujeres detrás de mí. Para mí ese es el paso inmediato y claro, en donde siento que tengo esa fortaleza ya como para poder decir, pues yo quiero trabajar con esta fotógrafa y si no es ella, pues entonces yo no voy. Y a mí me tienes que pagar lo mismo que a mi compañero director, porque si no, yo no voy. Y esos son el tipo de como acciones prácticas en las que puedo incidir ahora. O leer un guión y decir, oye, está chingona tu historia con este personaje, pero ¿por qué no tienes a una mujer protagonista? Y he logrado en conversaciones pues que de pronto personajes que estaban escritos para hombres ahora hayan sido escritos para mujeres y entonces entra una mujer a protagonizar también. Son como el tipo de acciones prácticas, pero bueno, eso como hablando de lo inmediato. Pero siento que este es un camino, pues eso, como muy largo y en donde además la sensación es que avanzamos 2 pasos y retrocedemos 8.
No. So I think we again have to make a differentiation between the public conversation and the private conversation. In public, we're talking about the more mainstream platforms in Mexico, at least contents, and I think we're in a really transitional moment when it comes to this question of the female gaze. And the analogy I would use is like a tightrope, and we have to try and find a balance. At the moment, we're just starting out. When you get, I don't know if anyone's done this. When you walk a tightrope for the first time, you have to take tiny little shuffles, steps. You can't walk properly, and then you have to find your balance. You have to find the center, and from there, you can walk comfortably without falling. So I think we're in the moment of like the tiny steps. And it's a really long and arduous process to try and change like centuries of patriarchy. We can't change it from one day to the next. Something that really helps me and that I really enjoy is to give classes. I give classes to students, and it's another way of understanding yourself and to see how they tell stories and how they see themselves. I feel like an auntie, and I really like it. I find it really exciting. And so I've working more at the moment on television series, which are predominantly male crews and male protagonists generally. So I feel like something I can do practically is open the door, as we said, for more women to come in behind me. For example, if I insist on having a female photographer, or I insist on being paid the same, or that the women are paid the same as the men on the crew. These are like practical actions that I can take. And have had the possibility to read scripts that had male protagonists, and to insist that they were rewritten as female protagonists. So these are practical actions that we can take, but it's a really long process. And at the moment, I feel like we take 2 steps forwards and 8 steps back.